Welcome guys, and today we are on the 11th game of Kasparov's masterpieces, and this game is Rui Lopez, and this is one of really Kasparov's gems. This is played between Kasparov and Timman. It is played in KRO match round 1 in Netherlands, October 1985. This is a Spanish game's closed variation, and the game goes e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle shot, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3, castles, h3. This position is the gateway to the main lines of the closed variation of the Spanish game. When bishop b7, then this is just one of many plans that black can use to try to cope with the Spanish Inquisition. Black must be careful not to fall into too passive position, or his life will be unpleasant. When successful, black can launch operations in the center or on either flank. This is why so many famous players been drawn to the Spanish games for both sides. d4, rook e8, knight bd2, bishop f8 and a3. White can also use strategies where the pawn goes to a4 to confront black's b5. Sometimes the bishop retreats to c2, and in another line the pawn advances to d5. The opening play is a battle to see which side can dictate the flow of the game. An important point of the advance of the a pawn is that the bishop can stay on the a2 g8 diagonal if attacked by retreating to a2. In addition, if pawns are exchanged at d4, black can't use the b4 square. h6, bishop c2. This is the natural home for the Spanish bishop. Eventually the pawn at e4 may be removed and the pathway to the enemy king side will be clear. Knight b8, b4. White creates a backward pawn at c3, but by advancing it to c4 the weakling can be eliminated. Knight bd7, bishop b2, g6. g6 and the game has reached typical position in modern popular modern lines. White has two options here: quiet play with queen b1 or aggressive queenside actions. White tends to have very small but persistent advantage with precise play. c4. ed4 and cb5, ab5, knight takes d4, c6. White aims at the targets on the queen side. An alternative plan to put pressure starts with bishop d3. Here a4, b takes a4, bishop takes a4, queen b6. And this move is Kasparov's innovation, prepared for this game. Black's plan is illustrated nicely by the present game. He will aim for the liberating advance of d5 when his pieces are better placed than their white counterparts. b5. Here the black player is Kasparov and white player is Timman, guys. After b5, with this move, white hopes to highlight the weaknesses at d6. but the plan fails. Uh, C takes b5, bishop takes b5, d5. This move eliminates black's only weakness and puts a strong pressure on the center. White already suffers from a pin on b5 and his pieces do not seem to be doing anything. Rook takes a8, bishop takes a8, queen a4, knight c5, queen, I'm sorry, here, queen c2, rook b8, and e takes d5, knight takes d5. Here black holds a slight initiative, knight c4, but this move is not good here. The best move would have been to put bishop a1, then knight f4, then bishop f1. But why didn't Timman didn't do this? After this, he put knight c4, and after queen c7, knight e5. Here this move is also not good. The final chance for equality lies in the move rook e8, which exchanges the dangerous black rook. But now Kasparov was able to develop a plan to exploit his spatial advantage based on the control of the b file and a8 h8 a1 diagonal. After bishop g7, knight e c6, and sorry, knight e c6. But this was a mistake because here after bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, knight f4, and black's control of the b and c files combined with the pin on the diagonal and more active knights give him a decisive advantage. Here even if at all white didn't go knight e c6, and if had gone bishop c6, then it would have been best met by knight takes, the bishop takes e5, and then queen takes c5, and rook takes b2, then queen takes d5, and bishop takes d4, rook e8 check, king h7, queen takes d4, rook b1. So after knight e c6, bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, knight f4, and then bishop b5. Timman tries to cut off the b file and to establish his own pin on the c file and free his game with rook c1. Black would just love to get his queen onto the a8 and h1 diagonal with deadly threats at g2, and it's not that hard to do. Now rook takes b5, an excellent exchange sacrifice. After knight takes b5, there is queen c6, After f3 there is queen takes b5. Here the pawn structure is symmetrical, so the win requires a creation of an effective plans. So knight planted at g3 would be nice, but it needs support. Bishop takes g7, king takes g7, queen c3 check, king g8, queen e5, knight fe6, rook a1, queen b7. Kasparov organizes his defense before launching his attack. The next step is to advance his h pawn. Queen d6 and h5, king h1, king h7, rook c1, queen a7, rook b1, knight g7, rook b8, knight ce6, queen e5, knight d4, rook b1, h4, queen b8 and queen e7, queen b4, queen f6, queen f8, knight e2, rook d1, knight f5, here knight f5 and queen b8, knight e3, queen d8, queen f4, rook e1 and knight f1. If at all the rook takes the knight, then there is knight g3 check, and after this there is queen check here, and then if at all rook h2, then there is queen e1 check. So this was the correct move, and the black will win. So even this move is winning. Also here this also here this move is winning. So if at all there is a check, then takes, and is of no use here. Any other move would result in, there is no use. So I hope you would have enjoyed the game, guys. A quite impressive game by the ex-world champion. I'll meet you in his next game. Thank you all.